Switching gears here, I would like to invite to the table our presenters for this evening, Mr. John Lang, Ms. Katie White, Mr. Barry Roney, and Mr. Todd Coe.
Official duties first.
Trying to be official.
We're ready now? Okay, very official. All right, thank you. We just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to take this brief presentation to share where we are with finishing up the bond that was passed in 2016. And we're in the third year of our sinking fund that was passed in 2019. And just kind of a brief accounting of where we are, where we spent the money on, that sort of thing. So, but first I wanted to introduce ourselves. I know you know a lot of us, but for our new board member and for the public that may not know, I'm John Lang, Chief Financial Officer.
Hi, Katie White, Director of Operations.
Todd Coe, I oversee the sinking fund.
And Barry Roney, the bond construction owner's rep.
And for those of you that don't know what an owner's rep is, they basically are our liaison. They work for the district, and they are our liaison. They represent the district in working with the construction managers, the architects, the contractors on these projects. And basically, they if it wasn't for them, Katie and I wouldn't be able to do our jobs. So I want to just publicly thank the two of them, Todd and Barry, because we wouldn't be able to do what we do normally unless we didn't have the bond or sinking fund. So I just want to thank him for that. So just as a kind of brief overview for what the bond is versus sinking fund, the bond is voted on by the district or the community, excuse me, and it's for a certain dollar amount in specific projects. We have an application that we have to submit to Treasury, and those are for specific buildings. If those buildings aren't included, we can't use bond dollars in those buildings. Whereas a sinking fund, we vote for an actual millage amount, and there's a lot of flexibility, but we kind of think of the difference of the bond is like buying a new house, and now you've had it for 20 years. Now you need this other money to help keep it up, replace the roof, replace the furnace, that sort of thing. So just obviously in a greater detail than what your own house is, but think of it that little bit. So next thing we want to do is just thank the community for the support they had for these two investments in the community and the district. Without that community support, we wouldn't be able to upgrade the facilities. We wouldn't be able to maintain them. We have, old facilities, so it takes a lot of money to keep them going and keep them running. So obviously with that support from the community, which we hope there's support again for the upcoming bond, that we continue to have that support so we can do more great things. First, we're just going to talk a little bit about the bond and where we stand financially with it. So if you recall, when we passed in May of 2016, the bond was for $120 million. And it was sold in two different series. So we get a certain amount of money at one point, then a few years later, we get the rest of the money once the bonds are sold. And I just wanted to point out, you'll see a lot of times we'll just talk in generalities, like the bond was around 120 million. We spent about this much money. But with this, I wanted to show that as good stewards of these finances that the public's entrusted with, we account for every penny. So that's why there's cents on there. We didn't just round up. We wanted to make sure we know that we are accounting for every penny of all these dollars. So what I wanted to point out on this is that with the interest revenue along with the bond revenue, we've had almost 2.8 million extra funds available above what was in the Treasury application that allowed us to expand on some projects or do some additional projects at some of the buildings that were included in the bond application to go beyond what the original idea was. So now I'm going to pass on to Barry to talk about some more of the details of the bond and expenditures.
Thank you, John. And is this on? Yeah, okay. Thank you, John. That almost $3 million of additional interest revenue was spent on, as John said, expansion of scope. Some of the things that you're going to see, tangible results of that, are remodeling some additional classrooms at Wexford that weren't in the original bond scope. We're we last summer performed a electrical service upgrade at Atwood to modernize that equipment. Wouldn't have been done without those extra earnings. And then this coming summer, an outdoor classroom and some other improvements around North Elementary School. So really that money was put to good use, and it was able to expand on some of the projects we were already doing. With the slide that's in front of you now, really the big picture here is 84% of that money was spent on bricks and mortar site work. And then there's the rest of it was spent on the soft costs that go along with administrating a project of this size. And those are typical percentages that you see up there. Next slide, John. This slide shows the 11 buildings in the one major site, Eastern Fields, that was improved as a part of that bond issue. So you can see there's a lot of small bars on this chart. Pretty much every building, every school anyway, got touched in the bond. Those small bars represent the schools that got new phones, new wireless access points, and furniture. The taller bars are the ones that received major renovations or remodeling.
Now onto the sinking fund. So the sinking fund, again, we levy a specific millage, which the board agreed and the community approved 3 mills for 10 years. And this fluctuates a little bit based on property tax values. So higher property tax values right now, as you can see that the last 2 years are a little bit more revenue that we received in the sinking fund than the first year. So since the sinking fund millage is a fixed rate, it just increases as the property tax, or if property taxes go down, that would decrease too. But we've received just over 23 million in sinking fund revenue as of last week. So we'll probably receive a little bit more before the end of the fiscal year. And we will now talk about some of those projects that we've been on. Katie and Todd.
Hi. Okay, so in this pie chart, you'll see 81% of it is towards, can you hear me? Okay, sorry. Is that better? Awesome. Building improvements is 81%. As John mentioned, we really focus on the guts, basically. So you see a lot of the behind the scenes deferred maintenance that we've had in the past years that we've really focused on. So roofs, boilers, sewer line repairs, concrete, pools, all of the things that you don't necessarily see as a visual like the bond improvement really does. So in the next slide, you'll actually see that we were able to use some of the sinking fund dollars to leverage some of our buying power towards the bond work and collaboration. And Todd will talk about that a little bit more.
What we have here on the bar chart is, it shows you where we, put a lot of this sinking fund money to, like Beekman, we replaced the roof, replaced asphalt on that site. Everett, it was able to support, to do the work, with Barry on the bond, on some other areas, along with the electrical, mechanical, and everything. Sexton, we did the roof there. We got a lot more that we're going to be doing there on the up and coming sinking fund and everything. All the lower bars are things that, we're, like Katie said, that we're doing the minor maintenances, replacing, motors and pumps and everything that goes out as we go through the year that we, put together. We're putting out new fencing for, for the small programs and everything. So that's the kind of stuff that we're doing with this sinking fund.
So again, thank you. Short and sweet. So we wanted to at least get some information before the next bond vote, but we will be back again May 12th for the ISS meeting for a more detailed look at the projects. And we'll have pictures and pictures and talk about some of the more upcoming, hopefully, projects in the new bond to kind of wrap them all together there. So we'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Missy?
Thank you for this. I have a comment and a question. My comment is that I just would like to announce that I will be going out on May 3rd to vote yes. Personally, that's what I'm going to do on the bond for the upcoming special election for that. Just a quick question on the bar graphs. There's this part that says NA. What's that?
So sometimes there are costs that are not associated with a specific building. So for instance, like Barry's costs and Todd's costs that are charged to that, since they're not associated with the building or some other fees or architect and engineering and construction management, they're not specific. So we don't assign a building code, so that's why we don't. NA, not available. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mrs. Fuller? What?
She asked my question.
Oh, Dr. Rodriguez?
Thank you. Thank you. It was my question too. But also, last week or 2 weeks ago, we had information about Beekman Center and how much steel is needed there. But still here, we spent a lot of money there. What is your evaluation?
What did we
What
do?
is your evaluation of the building? What do you think the building, after spend all this money, still we are not doing some progress there? It's too much.
I don't think it's too much. It's for the, upkeep and the, well-being of that building. It's like I said, it's replacing the roof and, replacing asphalt that was bad. That's what we did with that funding.
If you don't mind, Barry or Todd, what's the square footage of Beekman? Do you know?
I don't know that right offhand. I think it's right around 90,000 square feet.
Yeah, so Beekman is one of our largest buildings on, I think, 50 acres of land. So certainly the $3 million that they spent on Beekman was for a new roof, and but it certainly needs a lot more. And I really, that's a really important thing to point out. There's so much, but I mean, if you want, if the question, could you talk a little bit more about the building and maybe some of its needs? Would you like to know that?
I don't think we need to go to that tonight and very specific. I think this is a case of the study.
Okay,
That
great.
is my point.
No, that's great.
It's a case the board of education need to be informed and study, and whatever we had to do, we will do it.
Great.
But I want to reiterate what our board member said. All this money was used properly, and May 3rd is important for our students. I already voted, and I hope that everybody who is going to vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just want to add one thing about Beekman. In the Superintendent Soldier, formal. In the facility assessments that we've talked about that supported the first bond and the sinking fund, there was about $27 million of assessment needs for Beekman. So in a way, we have spent some, but along with a lot of our facilities, there's still a lot more needs that need to happen to either completely replace everything or bring them up to the status of a almost brand new building. So there are still a lot of needs. Yes.
I think that after we finish that, soon we will have a kind of where every building that we are using this money is.
Mm-hmm.
Where if you go and say, I'm going to qualify this building educationally, I will recommend number one is physically great. They have the space that they need, all this, maybe a list of things that we already did there. They are going to stay there for a few years. There's not going to be repaired today and have to repair next year again. Then some kind of evaluation of the buildings and how long these buildings are going to be conducive to good education of the kids. And that is all the money is for. conducive to good education of the kids. Then to have an evaluation of the buildings, and you can see the rubrics and give it to the board, that will be, I think, very appreciative for, not only for this board, but the people who come after us.
Other questions from board members?
I just really wanted to thank the four people here. The amount of work that Barry and Todd have done with the sinking fund and with the bond is tremendous. And certainly John and Katie overseeing all of this. Not only do you see their incredible attention to detail, as John said, down to the penny, but you're also seeing how well the four of them know each building in and out. I think sometimes when we see these large numbers, you go, wow, we're spending all this money, but it's incredible to think of our 26 schools, our over 1,000 acres of land, our multiple buildings. And we certainly appreciate the incredible largesse of this community in supporting this bond. And I get to say, hopefully the next bond, and you can be rest assured that this board and this district is very, very good stewards of the money, making every dollar count for the betterment of our students, our staff, and our community.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.